All right, now, my next guest says the U.S. nuclear industry has taken already exhaustive steps to improve the safety of our plants and would have been prepared for the events that unfolded in Japan. Mike Wallace is Vice Chairman and Chief Operating Officer of Constellation Energy, which operates 5 nuclear reactors in the United States. He joins us from Washington, D.C., where he's been speaking with the administration and lawmakers about nuclear safety. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. So we just heard that the San Onofre plant in California was built to withstand a 7.0 earthquake. The earthquake in Japan was 9.0. So how can you say we would be prepared? I mean, this is a plant that's on a major fault line.
The way the earthquake criteria are established for the design of all of our plants is a function of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and their oversight. They're establishing the regulations and the criteria. They require that we use the earthquake determination from the U.S. Geology Survey for the worst historic earthquake within 200 miles. And then we are required to put safety margins on top of that to assure that we've designed them far beyond what has ever been experienced. It isn't really appropriate to compare the numbers in Japan with the numbers in California because the geology all around the world is different. And the way that we do it, consistent with the requirements, is to assure that we're dealing with the regional earthquake geology that is most appropriate for the design.
So looking back historically, the problems at 3 Mile Island were different from the problems happening right now in Japan. How do we know what's going to happen tomorrow? How can we really be prepared for tomorrow's nuclear crisis?
Well, the one line of defense that we think is quite important to keep in focus is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in the United States. That is an independent regulatory authority. They have over 4,000 employees overlooking the operation of our 104 nuclear plants. And the requirements that they established are well recognized around the world as being the most rigid. They are a tough regulator. And in fact, they are the gold standard for regulation. So everything that we do in operating our plants is absolutely in full compliance with the NRC regulations. But we go beyond that. We also have formed an industry group called the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations because our objective is not just to meet the regulations, but to go beyond them with enough margin so that we can always be comfortable that we will have reliable production of our plants at all times. So the NRC is a regulatory body that really stands to give the public huge confidence because they are extraordinarily transparent and detailed in all of the work that they do.
Mike, what's the average age of your 5 plants?
Boy, I can't tell you that exactly, but if I rounded the number, I'd say it's probably about 30 years right now.
So obviously technology has changed so much in the last 2 or 3 years, let alone 30 years. What is it that you've done to keep these plants upgraded and ready and not sitting on 30-year-old technology as it relates to both to safety and operation?
Sure. 2 ways to answer that. First, I'll go back again to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Regardless of the age of any plant, they establish the criteria that govern how those plants must perform in order to assure that they're continually operated safely. What we then do, secondly, is continually perform maintenance, testing, we refer to that as surveillance, and equipment upgrades and improvement in order to assure that the plants operate reliably. Obviously, our objective is to generate safe, reliable, and frankly, carbon-free electricity for our customers, but we can only do that if we are in absolute full compliance with the requirements of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and that frequently involves upgrades and equipment changeouts in order to assure that we meet those requirements.
If you were going to build more nuclear plants, how would they be different than the plants that exist today? Would they be better than the plants that exist today?
So it's a hallmark of the nuclear industry that since the first nuclear plants to generate electricity were built almost 50 years ago, we have embraced a value of continuous improvement. So the first plants gave us an experience set. Later edition plants were further improved. We then are up to what's frequently referred to as Generation 3, the newest plants that are actually operating in the U.S. today. And we're about to move into the direction of Generation 3+. Some of those plants are being built elsewhere in the world today, and we would expect that some of the Generation 3 plants will be built in time as well. So we continuously improve the existing plants, and when we make a change resulting in a new plant, we take account of all the experiences and the technology upgrades and focus that in the new plant. But again, the new plants, just like the existing plants, have to be in absolute full compliance with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission's requirements, a tough regulator, and they are in fact right now in the process of very in-depth reviews of the license applications for the next generation of new plants in the United States.
You recently pulled out of the EDF Areva project because the costs were getting too high. It takes 8 to 9 years to build a nuclear plant, $10 billion. Do you see the government now getting cold feet on giving financial support to build more technologically up-to-date plants?
Well, the reason that we pulled out had not so much to do with the cost of the plant as the overall framework that was coming together to allow us to build the plant, the so-called loan guarantee. And the issues concerning that were just more than we thought appropriate for our company to continue to deal with. That said, Electricity de France, our partner, is continuing forward with that project. And we think further, this is a good opportune time, as since it's been 5 years since the Energy Policy Act of 2005, it's a good time for the industry and the government to take stock of how things are progressing and determine what adjustments may be necessary in order to better facilitate new nuclear plants coming about in the United States.
All right, Mike Wallace from Constellation Energy, really appreciate your time today. Thanks.